I am 93 years old. For 61 of those years, I was a funeral director. I have buried more people than I can count. Mothers, children, soldiers, millionaires, beggars. In the end, they all look the same to me. Still, quiet, done. But I need to tell you something before I go. Something I have never said out loud. I thought I had time. I spent 61 years standing beside caskets, telling grieving families how sorry I was for their loss. I said the right words. I wore the right suit. I comforted strangers in their worst moments. And every single night I went home and did nothing with my own life. I was wrong. You would think that a man who spends his whole life around death would learn to live. That is what everyone assumes. They say you must understand life so deeply. But the truth is the opposite. I understood death. I never understood life. Not until it was almost too late. Let me tell you what death really teaches you, if you are willing to listen. It does not teach you to be afraid. It teaches you to notice. It teaches you that the people in those caskets were not thinking about their bank accounts in their final moments. They were not thinking about the promotion they missed, or the house they never bought. They were thinking about a phone call they never made, a daughter they never hugged enough, a friend they meant to visit someday. Someday. That word has closed more caskets than any disease I have ever seen. I remember one funeral. A young man, 42 years old. His wife stood over him, and she said something I have never forgotten. She said, he kept saying, next year. Next year we'll travel. Next year we'll slow down. There was no next year. There was only that room, that casket, and a woman who would spend the rest of her life carrying next year, like a stone in her chest. I drove home that night and sat in my car in the driveway for almost an hour, not because I was sad, because I was terrified. I realized I was doing the exact same thing. Later never came for him, and I understood, sitting there in the dark, that later was not coming for me either. Don't make my mistake. You are alive right now, reading this, breathing, and you think you have time. Everyone thinks they have time. I thought I had time. I was 30, then I was 50, then I was 70, and one morning I woke up and I was 93. And I finally asked myself the question I had been running from my whole life. Did I actually live, or did I just survive long enough to bury everyone else who didn't? I'm going to tell you what I saw, not just at funerals, in life, in the quiet space between the people who truly lived and the people who only existed until their name was called. Because there is a difference, and almost no one knows which side they are standing on until it is far too late to cross over. Stay with me. I promise you, by the end of this, you will see your own life differently. Let me take you back, not to the funerals, to before all of that, to the boy I used to be. I grew up in a small house with thin walls, where you could hear everything: arguments, laughter, silence. My father worked with his hands. My mother worked twice as hard and said nothing about it. We did not have much, but we had time. Long evenings, slow Sundays. Nobody was in a hurry to become somebody. Then I got older, and something changed in me. I wanted to matter. I wanted a name people would remember. So when the funeral business came into my life, almost by accident, through an uncle who needed help, I told myself this was my calling. And in some ways it was. I was good at it. I was calm when others panicked. I could sit with a grieving mother for hours and never once look at the clock. But here is the part one never told anyone. I liked the business. I liked it too much. Every funeral meant a paycheck. Every death meant work. And somewhere along the way, without noticing it, I stopped seeing people. I started seeing schedules, caskets to sell, services to book. I told myself I was helping families in their darkest hour, and I was. But I was also becoming a man who measured his worth by how busy his calendar looked. I married young. Her name was Elena. She used to say, I smelled like flowers. I never picked for her. She meant the funeral flowers, always someone else's flowers, for someone else's love. I had a daughter too, Rosa. I remember her small hand in mine, once, at a lake near our house. She was maybe 6. She asked me to stay and watch her swim. I told her, later, I have a service in an hour. I did not know that later would become the story of her entire childhood. There were birthdays I missed because someone had passed, and the family needed me. There were anniversaries I forgot because I was standing in a cemetery in the rain, comforting people who were not my own family. I told myself this was sacrifice. I told myself this was noble. I was wrong. The cracks were there the whole time. I just refused to look at them. Eleanor grew quieter every year. Not angry, just quiet. The way water goes still before it freezes completely. Rosa grew distant, the way children do when they learn not to expect you. I remember one Christmas Eve. I was called to prepare a body for an early morning service. Eleanor stood in the doorway, holding a small wrapped box, and she just watched me leave. She did not fight. She did not cry. She had stopped doing both, years before. I told myself I would make it up to them. Later, there was that word again. I built a good reputation in my town. People trusted me with their grief. They said, "He has such a good heart," and I believed it too. I believed I was a good man, because I was good at comforting strangers. But a good man does not become a stranger to his own family. That is the part death does not warn you about right away. It does not come for you suddenly. It comes for the years first, quietly. One missed dinner, one missed swim, one flower never picked. And by the time you notice, the years are already gone, and so is the woman who once loved you enough to wait. The turning point came on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were always slow at the funeral home, and I had promised Rosa for once that I would pick her up from school myself. I was in the middle of arranging flowers for a service the next day when my assistant told me there was a call, a family emergency. I almost didn't answer. Something told me to let it ring. I answered anyway. It was the hospital. Eleanor had collapsed at home. By the time I arrived, she was already gone. A heart that had been quietly breaking for years had finally stopped. I stood in that hospital hallway, the same kind of hallway I had walked through 1,000 times as a funeral director, comforting other families. And for the first time in my life, I was the one who needed comforting. Nobody came. I had spent so many years being the calm one, the strong one, that I did not know how to be the broken one. I remember sitting beside her in that cold room, not as a professional, not as the man who arranges caskets and flowers, just as a husband who ran out of time. I thought I had time. I kept whispering it to her, as if saying it enough would undo the years. I thought I had time, Eleanor. I thought I had time. She could not hear me. She had stopped hearing me long before that day, in ways I refused to admit. Rosa arrived at the hospital still in her school uniform. She did not cry in front of me. She just stood there, looking at her mother. And then she looked at me with an expression I will never forget. It was not hatred. It was something worse. It was distance. The distance of a daughter who had already learned long ago not to expect her father to show up. That night, I sat alone in my house for the first time in decades. No calls, no services, no caskets waiting, just silence and the terrible realization that I had spent my whole life comforting strangers in their grief, while my own family grieved my absence in silence. I picked up an old photograph of Eleanor and me, young, before the business, before the busyness. She was laughing in that photo. I could not remember the last time I had heard her laugh in real life. Later never came for her, and I finally understood, sitting in that dark house, that later had never truly existed. It was a lie I told myself, so I would not have to face the present. Every later, I promised, was a small theft, a piece of my family's life, stolen and given instead to strangers' funerals. I had spent 61 years preparing people for the end of their story, believing I still had time to write my own. I was wrong. That night, something in me broke completely. Not my body, my belief. The belief that being useful to others excused being absent from the people who needed me most. The belief that someday was a place I could still travel to. I realized, sitting there in the dark, holding an old photograph of a woman who died waiting for me to notice her, that death does not just end a life. It ends all the laters you were counting on. And once they are gone, there is no negotiating them back. After Eleanor's funeral, I did something I had never done in 61 years. I stopped working. Not for a week, not for a month, for almost a year, I did not walk into a single service. I needed that year to understand what death had actually been trying to teach me all along while I was too busy to listen. Here is the false belief I lived by. I believed that time was unlimited. As long as I was healthy, as long as I was needed, as long as tomorrow kept arriving on schedule, I believed that love could wait, because love does not have a deadline like a funeral does. I believed that showing up later was almost the same as showing up now. None of that was true. The truth is this: love has a deadline. Every relationship has one. You just never know the date in advance. That is what makes people careless with it. If we knew the exact day Eleanor would collapse in that kitchen, I would have cancelled every service that year. I would have picked Rosa up from school every single day. But we never get that date, so we gamble with the people we love, betting that we still have time. When the truth is, none of us ever know. I thought I had time. I say it again, because I need you to feel the weight of it, not just hear it, feel it. That sentence has ended more relationships, more childhoods, more quiet moments that could have been shared than any disease I ever saw in that funeral home. Here is the second truth. Being busy is not the same as being important. I confused the two for decades. I thought a full calendar meant a full life. It does not. A full calendar can hide an empty home. It can hide a wife who stopped waiting by the door. It can hide a daughter who stopped asking you to watch her swim. Here is the third truth, the hardest one. Grief does not only belong to the people standing at the casket. Grief also belongs to the people who are still alive, still loved, but were never truly seen while they had the chance to be. Eleanor grieved our marriage for years before her body ever gave out. Rosa grieved her father long before I was gone. I just was not paying attention because I was too busy comforting other families in their grief to notice I was creating my own. Later never came for her, and later will not come for you either. Not in the way you are imagining it. You are picturing a future version of yourself who finally calls your mother, finally visits your old friend, finally tells your children you are proud of them, finally rests. But that version of you does not exist yet. He is a fantasy you keep funding with today's neglect. Don't make my mistake. The lesson a funeral director learns after 61 years is brutally simple. It is not that life is short. Everyone says that, and it means nothing until you feel it. The real lesson is this: life is not short. Life is exactly as long as it is. What is short is your patience with the people who love you and their patience with your absence. Do not mistake stillness for peace, the way I once did in that funeral home. The dead are still because they are finished. If you are still and quiet and distant while you are still breathing, you are not at peace. You are just rehearsing for a stillness that will come soon enough on its own. So let me speak to you directly now, not as a funeral director, as an old man who ran out of some days before he understood what they cost. You are somewhere right now, reading this, maybe on a couch, maybe on a train, maybe lying in bed, unable to sleep, which is exactly why these words found you tonight. I want you to think of one person, just one, a parent, a child, a friend you have not called in months, a partner sitting in the next room while you scroll past this video. I want you to picture their face. Now I want you to ask yourself the question I never asked until it was too late. If they were gone tomorrow, what would you regret not saying today? Do not answer that quickly. Sit with it. Let it hurt a little. That discomfort is not cruelty. It is a gift. It is the one thing death gave me that I can still pass on to you without you having to stand in a hospital hallway to receive it. I thought I had time. I was wrong. Later never came for her. And I promise you, later is not as patient as you think it is. It does not wait for the right mood, the right money, the right moment when things calm down. Things do not calm down. They just end, sometimes gently, sometimes suddenly, and they do not ask your permission first. Don't make my mistake. You do not need 61 years of standing beside caskets to learn this. You do not need to lose someone the way I lost Eleanor, the way I nearly lost Rosa's love for me entirely. You can learn it right now, in this quiet moment for free, from an old man who would trade every year he has left for one more ordinary Tuesday with his wife alive and his daughter's small hand in his. So here is what I ask of you. Not tomorrow, not later, tonight. Call the person whose face you just pictured. Say the thing you have been postponing. Show up for the moment you keep promising someday you will show up for. It does not need to be big. It only needs to be real. And it needs to be now. Because one day, someone will stand over you, the way I have stood over so many others. And the only thing that will matter is not how busy your calendar was. It will be how present you were for the people who loved you while you still had time to be. I am 93 years old. I have buried thousands of strangers, but the person I regret not truly seeing was my own family. Don't wait for death to teach you how to live. Live now, while it's still today.